know, it is so wonderful to see so many, literally, faces to be together today. I hope that you all feel safe, and I hope that your tummies get nourished with the great food from Persimmon. Thank you very much. So I'm Lynn Snodgrass. I'm the CEO of the Best Darn Chamber in the Pacific Northwest. I used to say the world, but I'm not claiming the world anymore. Maybe you are, but I do want to take a few moments to introduce our presenting sponsors to you. Columbia Bank is a presenting sponsor. The Boeing Company is as well. Portland General Electric, and Andrew is here representing Portland General Electric, and our newest presenting sponsor is Persimmon Country Club. We also have stakeholder sponsors, Gresham Barlow School District, and we have one of the board members from the school district here, Kathy Keedley. And MetroEast Community Media is our sponsor, and they record this event for us every month, and then they rebroadcast it. So on your way out, if you get one of these on the registration table, you can see when it's going to be rebroadcast, and listen again to what you thought you heard for clarification, or this is so good you want to pass that information on to somebody else. So we will be recording today, so careful what you say. That's for me to hear for myself more than it is for me to tell you. There will be time for questions later as well. Today we are greatly honored and pleased to have a co-host of the event. The Multnomah County Sheriff is very important for the region, and another regional chamber is co-hosting with us today, and that's West Columbia Gorge Chamber of Commerce. So what I'd like to do is bring Cindy Passanotti, who's the president of GCC, up to give you 1 or 2 minutes about West Columbia Gorge or whatever she wants to talk about. But remember, it's being recorded. So come on up, Cindy.
And I would like to take a moment to say welcome, everybody. It is delightful to see all of your faces and maskless faces. Now we can get on airplanes and transportation without a mask. That'll be a thrill. So West Columbia Gorge Chamber, we are small but mighty chamber of the Gorge cities and the Gorge surroundings. So we are in a heavy growth mode. We just removed into an office across the street from our previous office in Troutdale. We're so excited. This last weekend we were busy moving stuff in and getting settled there. I would like to introduce Gina. Where'd you go? There she is. Gina Thorson, who is our sales rep, and we are still semi-remote, so she'll come and meet you, or you can come and meet her in our new office. And that's at 110 North Highway Columbia Boulevard. So right next between Mayor's Square and Bandits. So also wanted to introduce briefly Steve Padella from the school district. He is on our board of directors. And let me see, do I have any other board of directors here? I don't think so. I don't see anybody. But we have quite a busy group that are very busy growing our chamber. We'll be upgrading our website and excited to be in a new location. And we'd love to have you come and visit and check us out. So anytime. We also, one other little detail, we're going to be starting some what we call travel bubbles. It's fun to travel with your friends. So there's going to be some chamber exciting things coming up. The first one is going to be in October with Lewis and Clark cruise down to Astoria. If you've always wanted to hear about Lewis and Clark, give me a call. Other than that, we're done. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Chambers are known for helping each other, because when one chamber helps another chamber and collaborate, not only do the members of each chamber benefit, but also does the region. It is probably one of the few industries where there's no competition. They just help each other lift up. So Anyway, thank you very much for co-hosting today and for getting some folks to join us today. That's great, Cindy. Thank you. And wouldn't you know she'd get that travel thing in there? That's her business, so does not surprise me at all. I'd like to acknowledge a couple of my board members that are here. Warner Allen, who is the chair of our Government Affairs Committee and past president. Thank you, Warner, for being here. Our current president, Leslie Parker, with Health Benefits 411, same table. Kayla Viramontes, where is Kayla? She has a reveal party coming up. And for those of you that are my age, a reveal party is when you tell the gender of the baby. So anyway, Kayla is a board member as well. Steve Brown from Pamplin Media, another reason to keep your mouth shut. At that particular table. Steve, thank you very much for being here. And Andrew Spear, as I mentioned earlier, Andrew's from Portland General Electric, one of the newer board members, so we appreciate you being here too. I also would like to acknowledge some elected officials that are with us today. Councilor Sue Piazza, City Councilor Sue Piazza. Hi, Sue. Nice to have you here. And a former elected Diane McKeel, Multnomah County. There she is. And a former Multnomah County Sheriff, Bob Skipper, is with us today. I warned him that I was going to tell everybody about all the bad things he did, so now we have an opportunity to elect somebody new, but he told me that he wasn't beneath calling his friends and ticketing me for something. So I'm not going to do that. So now for our program. Every 4 years, we elect somebody for something. Every 2 years, in some cases. And I wish every year in other cases. So, but Multnomah County Sheriff is a 4-year term, and the sheriff, a current sheriff, Sheriff Reese, is choosing not to run for office again. I don't think that's a term-limited office, as I understand. It is a term-limited office. Okay, he can't run again. I did not know that. All right. But that also is an opportunity to get new ideas, new direction, new relationships when you elect somebody after a term limit is gone. So we have an opportunity in May to cast a ballot for a new Multnomah County Sheriff. And it is going to be new because Sheriff Reese is not running again. And in this election, it's not a typical primary in that you choose a party. It's a nonpartisan. But if any of the candidates were to get 50% plus one, then the race is over. You don't do it in November. So that's something that you want to consider in this race and the county chair race. There's several races right now. So it's important to get to know the candidate, because not only will you get to know them for now, but you may be hearing from them all the way till November as well. So it'd be good to know that. So I want to give you a little ground rules. Each one of the candidates, we invited 3. Nicholas is not here. I'm not sure why he committed to come, but he's not with us today. But we have 2 other candidates, and each one of those candidates will come up individually and give you 10 minutes about themselves. We have timekeeper in the back to keep them on track. They'll give you a 3-minute, a 2-minute, a 1-minute, 30 seconds, and hook, it's off, you're off the stage for their 10 minutes. After both of them have completed that part of the program, then you will have the opportunity to ask questions. I will come around with the mic and let you ask your question. We ask that you not necessarily talk about all the things you believe in, but get right to the question. Then they will have a minute apiece to answer the question that you have posed. So they'll both be on stage. And if you want to direct a question to one of them, that's okay, but in fairness, they both should have the opportunity to answer the question. After your questions are exhausted, they'll come back on stage and have a minute to convince you they're the best thing since Hershey syrup or vanilla syrup or whatever syrup you like. So I think that is all of the rules. That's all the rules that I want to talk about right now. So we're going to go in alphabetical order. The first then would be Under Sheriff Nicole Morrissey O'Donnell, and then Captain Derrick Peterson after that. So Nicole, if you'd like to come on stage and start your... Yeah, don't fall. Come all the way up the stairs. There we go. Okay. Nicole, welcome, Nicole.
Thank you everyone for being here today. Yes, I took a fall running on Saturday, so I'm a little beat up, so I didn't want to take a chance on that larger step on the other side. So I appreciate this opportunity today to be here and talk about public safety in our community. So I am Nicole Morrissey O'Donnell, and I currently serve as the Undersheriff of Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. A little bit about me: I grew up in Oregon, native Oregonian, grew up in a small town, Clatskanie, and when I moved into Portland, that was to attend University of Portland. And I always wondered how I ended up in this public safety profession, because I started out as a music major in the jazz band. So that seems like a natural transition. So I didn't really know at first why I wanted to be in public safety, but I had some Portland Police command staff that came in and taught some of our classes. And some of the things that they were talking about really resonated with me, was serving our community in a different way. And so I also, as I look back, I've always been one to push the limits a bit, where specifically as a child, there wasn't female sports or girls sports in Clatskanie. So I was always the one to say, I'm going to play on the boys basketball team, I'm going to play on the boys baseball team, all the way up until I was 14 years old. So even as a kid, you know, I think I was always driven to things that people might have said that I couldn't do those things. And I also remember at that time, there wasn't a lot of women in the field. The instructors that came to University of Portland, I didn't have someone to really look up to at that time. That was, you know, in the 91 to 96. So currently, I've been with the Sheriff's Office now for over 25 years. And again, I serve as the Undersheriff. That is second in command to Sheriff Mike Reese, and I was appointed to that position in August of last year. And also in 2019, I was unanimously approved to be the interim designee to Sheriff Mike Reese as well. And that is to step in if Mike Reese were to be unable to fulfill his term. So in my second in command role right now, I currently oversee on a daily basis law enforcement operations and business services, and that's a $171 million budget and 800 personnel. And when Sheriff Reese is out of town, I oversee the entire organization. So prior to my role as Undersheriff, I did lead the law enforcement division for about two and a half years. And that includes patrol, river patrol, search and rescue, civil process, community engagement. We started a community partnership unit so we can engage better with our community as well. So what's also unique about me is that not only do I hold the corrections certification, I also hold the law enforcement certification, and that is a police officer certification that is required within 1 year of taking office. So I knew when I was leading the training unit that I wanted to continue to build upon where I was at with the organization, that I wanted to lead at a higher level. At that time, I didn't know that it would be leading at the highest level and running for sheriff, but I knew that for me to be able to develop the programs, the training plans for the entire division, the law enforcement division, plus corrections, and our non-sworn professional staff, that I had to have as much knowledge as I could. So I went back. That is a 4-month process at the police academy, full-time, attending with all of our new police recruits, and then being out on patrol, taking 911 calls with a coach, just like our new recruits, and that was another 3 to 4 months. So I'm really proud of that experience, but I'm really proud to be able to say that at a time when, you know, our law enforcement deputies didn't necessarily have to invest in teaching and training future leaders, they did. And now I'm investing in teaching and training our new leaders and our future leaders of the organization. So why am I running for sheriff? So as everyone, I live and work in this community. And overwhelmingly, as I'm out talking to voters, I hear that people don't feel safe. And we are facing very serious challenges. And we need to have someone in place that has the experience and training to be able to tackle these challenges the minute they step into the office. Some of my priorities include reducing gun violence through prevention, intervention, and collaboration. Under my command of the law enforcement division, we had the largest seizure of illegal firearms in the history of the organization. We do that through collaboration with our public safety partners, but not only our public safety partners, but also with our community-based leaders, our community-based service providers, our neighborhoods, and our community members and community leaders. We have to be engaged with all of our communities to learn what is happening and how can we help. We work collaboratively with Office of Violence Prevention and Healing Hurt People, both programs that are designed to help reduce the violence in our community and support people that are victims and survivors of gun violence. Providing resources and safe housing for those that are living on our streets. Recently, I was able to partner with our corrections division to achieve a grant to assign a clinician with our homeless outreach and programs engagement team. That service is critical. We recognized early on, roughly 2016, 2017, that services in East County were really challenging to come by. So we made the choice at the time to pivot and utilize 2 deputies and a sergeant to do that outreach work. When I came to lead the law enforcement division, I reinvested in that work. They didn't have a direction or a sergeant at that time, so I reinvested in that because we had to have somebody boots on the ground talking to people that needed services and resources, and really it's about building that bridge, breaking down those barriers, and getting people into safe housing. Building community trust. So I've been really enjoying a lot of the partnerships that I've developed along the way, not just because of this campaign, but because there's been challenges in public safety for years. And so when I'm able to pick up the phone and call someone from a community-based service and say, you might be the best to help us, help this person find housing, find a service or resource, that maybe a law enforcement person may not be able to break down those barriers and be able to get them to the appropriate service. And developing listening sessions. We have one coming up soon with our Somali American community. We've been working on this partnership for a couple of years now, but now that we can be in person, we can start building that bridge. There's a lot of concerns around gun violence and just a lot of questions for public safety. So we're excited to be able to do that in person in May. Looking at how do we supplement law enforcement services with the experts in mental health and addiction. That includes alternative service models that I'm directly responsible for as our leadership in TriMet Transit Police Division. And I worked collaboratively with your chief, Travis Goldberg, when he was overseeing TriMet Transit Police, to bring in different types of responses that may be able to be more proactive. So if it's not a police type response, that we have these other services that we can engage with. We're also in the process of a crisis response model. That is, again, with public health and in collaboration with TriMet. So my leadership style is community-driven, as you hear, and I leverage public safety and community-based resources to gain results. I do have a proven track record of collaboratively tackling the most challenging situations head-on, and I've earned the support and confidence of 2 former governors, elected at the state and local level, including 3 of our 4 contract city mayors, community leaders that I've been partnering with for much prior to this campaign and throughout, just learning about how can we better partner together to serve our community in the best way we can. Also, people that are doing this job every day. Every police association that does endorsements in our county has given me their endorsement, including Gresham Police, Multnomah County Deputy Sheriffs, Port of Portland Police, and I've secured the endorsement for Portland Fire Bureau as well, and I'm hopeful with my meeting at Gresham Fire that's coming up this week. Current sheriffs this area and beyond, including Sheriff Mike Reese, Sheriff Pat Garrett, Angela Brandenburg, Matt English, Tim Swinson, and retired Sheriff Bob Skipper. So I'm very proud of earning those partnerships and that support throughout my long career with the Sheriff's Office, and I know that I have much more to do. Many of my supporters, they will say that I have a heart for service, that I'm a proven leader and trusted champion for justice, and that my approach to public safety is rooted in collaborating with our public safety partners and our community leaders. I build trust. I know that building trust and relationships is key. And I want to continue building those relationships so people feel safe in their communities. And I have the leadership skills and the vast experience to continue this work, and I have a vision for the future. All of these partnerships are critical in addressing each and every issue that we have right now, and it is critical to be able to have the training, experience, and connection to community. I was the first female to lead the law enforcement division as chief deputy, the first female undersheriff, as well as I will be the first female sheriff in the history of the organization of 168 years. I lead with action, I lead with a vision for the future, and I am ready to step into this job on day one. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. And our next candidate, you writing questions down yet? Okay. You can go behind me. There you go. So there's tablets and pens on the table in front of you if you wanted to remember. So our next candidate at the forum is Captain Derrick Peterson. You know your last name. You passed the test. Okay. Yes, I did have a brain freeze. So there you go, Derrick. Thank you.
That's okay. I often forget my name as well, so especially these days. So thank you for inviting me here today. It's a pleasure to be able to speak in front of you and just let you know who I am and my heart. Derrick Peterson, I remember. And I'm a homegrown product, North Portland. Went to Holy Redeemer Central Catholic High School and went to Portland State University, where I received my degree in administration and justice. So the journey. I fell in love with this profession when I went to do a practicum at Washington County Probation and Parole. And this lady that just kind of sticks in my head, she was my mentor, Maura Goodman. She showed me the ropes with probation and parole, and as she was just so tender and loving but stern, directing people who are coming out of prison and jail to give them a better life, give them a vision as to what they can actually be. And I said, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a person that gets a chance to do something like that, change people's lives. And a year later, I get picked up by Multnomah County Sheriff's Office to get a job as a corrections officer. I'm like, well, how's that going to delve into those kind of situations and issues? Well, 35 years later, I'm still with the Sheriff's Office, and close to 25 of those years has been in management and or leadership. And I just am astounded that it's been that long, right? I've had an opportunity, I'm on the corrections side of the house, so I've worked nearly every position within the corrections division, and that accounts for close to 70% of our operations. So I'm very well versed in the Sheriff's Office and what it does, and even on the law enforcement side as well. So positions, it's very interesting that I've been a sergeant, administrative sergeant, an executive lieutenant, was over the hostage negotiation team as well as the tactical team. Wow, where does it go? I also was the commander of the detention center, arguably one of the most difficult places to run in the state of Oregon, as you have a plethora of types of people from that have acute mental health issues, people with medical issues. It's got the booking facility right there, and I've been known as one of the best commanders to take on that particular facility and be extremely successful at it. My claim to fame is dealing with the Bundys out in Eastern Oregon that took that reserve over and had nearly 18 of the followers and or the Bundys in custody, and having to really navigate through that with the federal courts and our staff. It was a very interesting time. So Bundys, remember that one. So in the community, before I even thought about running for sheriff, I've been a leader locally as well as on the state level. And so locally, I've had the opportunity to work with organizations like Portland Safety Action Coalition and our peace faith leaders, organizations that deal with the faith portion of our community. Word is Bond is one of the other ones since inception, having the opportunity to really work with youth and our folks that have been dealing with law enforcement in a negative way. We've had those kind of relationships, and actually bringing them into situations where we get a chance to navigate through processes and bring in those kids, or they're not kids anymore, but to be able to trust police in a different manner. So I think that's been extremely important. On the state level, I've been teaching diversity for well over 25 years, considered a subject matter expert in that field, but I was driven to make sure that I was addressing or having these conversations with new hires coming into the business. I thought it was extremely important. So diversity is what I will bring to the office a vision of that is extremely important, and I don't think we've seen that kind of vision in the sheriff's office. I've also am one of a handful of law enforcement personnel that had the opportunity to be asked to sit on committees for police reform. And I continue to be asked to be on those particular committees. And so I'm extremely, let's say, fortunate and humbled and proud to have served on these particular committees that House bills have been put out over the last year or so, and just being involved in that. So I am also the Northwest president of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. And what this has given me the opportunity to do is reach out to communities such as Gresham and Westland, different other communities, just to figure out ways that community and police can come together. And also provide diversity type of classes. One particular city I was able to help find their next police chief. So I say all this as this encompassing tapestry of work that I've been able to do, not only professionally, but in the community, has prepared me to be the next sheriff of Multnomah County. And with my unique experience, life experience, especially as a person of color, and as the community is asking for reform, asking for racial justice reform, asking for social justice reform, I think I fit the bill in what I've been doing for a lifetime of work to that extent. So I feel very prepared to be the next sheriff of Multnomah County. I am honored to have the endorsement of the Corrections Union, the Sheriff's Corrections Union. Thanks, 3 minutes to go. And also ASME Local 88. And that really represents to me really the people that are sitting here, the community that are asking for change, asking to be heard, asking for law enforcement to hear them. And I'm here to say that being proud of those specific union endorsements that really make up close to 80% of the sheriff's office, sworn and unsworn, they are saying loudly that they want change. They want to be part of being known and understood and being valued. And that's what the community is asking for, right? And so those things are at my heart. I'm a community organizer. I love getting out and meeting people and inspiring folks to that extent. I will continue to do that as sheriff, and I just appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, I know that they're coming up, but we'll see what ends up happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Peterson. I do admit that I had a brain freeze. It's amazing what 3 feet will do to your brain. The memory was gone just in 3 weeks, so I apologize for that. Okay, it's time for questions. Again, can we have both candidates come on stage, and instead of bouncing back and forth, just come on up stage, and you'll be answering the questions from this microphone up here. So, your questions are ready. They're going to give you 1 minute-ish to answer the questions. Some of them we're not going to pull them off the stage if they go over, but a 5-minute answer when you're only given 1 minute is telling. Okay? Okay, so we're going to start with questions. Board member Steve Brown, Pamplin Media. There you go, Steve.
Thank you for being here. I'll start you off with a softball question. Not softball, an easy question. My staff, I work with the Gresham Outlook, and my staff works with your department every week, and we appreciate that. My reporting staff tells me that we have a great relationship with your public information officer, and that we work very well together. The one down part has been we have zero access to the sheriff at all. We can't get to the sheriff to have a conversation. How open will you be to speaking with us and engaging with the community?
Well, let's just wait to see who decides to go first.
Or you.
I don't think you should take it off of the.
Okay.
Is it okay to take it off? Try to leave it on because it gets all in the rebroadcast.
work.
You'll have to walk to it and walk back. Okay, there we go.
Thank you very much for that question, because I value hearing from our community, and our community needs to hear from public safety. So I recognize that there's been some changes in our communication strategy and with our public information officer, and not having a sworn member in the unit as well. So I want to be open with being able to communicate with our community about where our challenges are, what we're doing to work toward collaborative solutions, because I feel like when our community doesn't feel heard and valued, then they don't feel like we care about public safety and community safety. Being able to bring all communities together to have that voice also, I think, is critically important. But if we're not able to put information out to our community to show where the direction that we're headed, and even the challenges that we're facing, I think it's critical to keep those lines of communication with our community open in multiple ways to do that. And one of those could be connection with media more frequently, just so our community does feel like they know what's happening within the organization, how we're collaborating across all of our system partners, and that they feel like that then they have a voice at the table as well.
Thank you, Nicole. Derrick?
Yes, so the day has come where we need to be more open to our community, Pamplin media, to the media resources. And so we've been hidden behind four walls, and we've enjoyed not having been out into the fray of things like Portland being on the front page all the time. This election is bringing forth some of those issues that people are pointing out, that we don't know anything about the sheriff's office, and that's not good. And so I would tell you that today, or when I'm sheriff, that ends, that there will be access, and that not only will there be access, but we're going to be coming out to the community, discussing issues, having forums, being able to make sure that the community weighs in on the issues that are at hand. And so I'm just extremely excited to get started with that. Understanding what you guys are going through with the media, and wanting to know what we actually do on a daily basis. I think that's what the community wants and deserves, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Derrick, why don't you stay at the microphone? You can answer first next. Michael?
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you both for being here today. So in recent years, both city and county officials have floated the idea of merging Portland Police Bureau with Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. Would you support such a merger? And if so, what would that agency look like?
So it would be headed by the sheriff's office, of course. But I think it's important that we have these kind of conversations, and I was able to answer that emphatically, that we need to take a look at it and have a discussion, a frank discussion. And how do we stair-step that in? We know that as a sheriff's office, we work with Portland on many different things on different levels, and we can take a look and see how that works. We already have examples of partnerships within the county with Fairview, Troutdale, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. But I think the discussion needs to happen openly, where we look at how we combine resources and call times and situations that are happening across our region. So it's not necessarily a Portland thing anymore. It's sweeping out to Gresham. And if we don't look at Portland, Gresham, and the county as a whole, and how we're dealing with these situations and issues, we're in for a rude awakening. We can't afford to be siloed anymore. We need partnerships, and relationship.
Thank you, Derrick. Nicole?
Thank you for that question. So collaboration is key across all of our public safety partners and our community-based partners. I was a part of both of those transitions with Fairview and Troutdale coming to Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. One of those took nearly 4 years. So I recognize that isn't the solution that is going to be our quick solution to solving all of these challenges. I am currently leading efforts with the Portland Police Bureau, Gresham Police. We're hoping to get OSP on the new, the letter that the sheriff put out, because there, if you haven't read that, it's about all of the community safety challenges and how do we address those collaboratively. I will be the lead on those efforts to do focus traffic enforcement in high crash, high risk corridors, to be able to work collaboratively on gun violence. We have meetings with the City of Portland and all of our partners at least once a week. So we're recognizing where gun violence is occurring because it has no borders. So we are collaborating with the Portland Police Bureau, and we recognize that no one agency is going to solve this by themselves. So I am absolutely in favor of collaboration and continued collaboration, bringing some resources to Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, specifically potentially the Special Investigations Unit, that their entire work is surrounding gun violence and high quantities of illegal drugs in our community. Those are areas that I want to focus on right now. I think taking our limited amount of resources and putting them toward a consolidation at that magnitude would not be the right move right now.
Thank you. Nicole, stay at the microphone. You'll answer first for the next question.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your service and for coming out today. Currently, we have a DA that is not prosecuting criminals. And what will you do differently to see that criminals are held accountable and not just put right back out on the streets?
Thank you for that question. I know that's been a concern for our community, to feel that there isn't accountability in our system. So the first area that I've been working on, even prior to, I think it was probably in the summer, just as I was starting this campaign, is building that relationship. We have to be able to build relationships with all of our partners, regardless if we have different views. We need to build that trust and build that relationship so we can start collaborating and come to the middle and ensure that we are all thinking about community safety. So I also met with the DA just 2 to 3 weeks ago, really to continue that partnership and continue that building trust. So I think bringing data to the table, making sure that everybody has shared awareness of what's happening in our community, as well as shared awareness of where we're seeing the gaps. So being able to work directly with our district attorney to show what's working and what isn't working and how can we do better for the safety of our community. And I feel like those have been really productive conversations, but I also feel that we need to come together as collective, as community, as public safety, as community members and leaders, and that also has to be part of that conversation. So building trust with our DA, recognizing where we have the gaps, and being able to fill those gaps with common sense solutions that keep our community safe.
Yeah, so I did get a chance to talk to the DA as well, have several conversations with him. And so I believe that communication and that relationship is brewing as we speak. And so I look forward to working with him. This is a systems issue, and it really deals with our DCJ, the folks that deal with people on probation and parole, our courts, our whole legal system, as well as the jail, which is extremely important. We do need to look at opening up some of the jail beds in some capacity, because people are just not being, they're being released out within a 4-hour period, and they're unleashed to go right back out and doing the same things, and people are tired of it. So there needs to be accountability, and jail's not the only game in town, because we know that it can be filled up very quickly and we get to forced releases and we're right back at the same issues. But like I said, it's a systems issue that needs everyone on board to figure out what our next steps are, who's going to be responsible for what areas, and how we can alleviate and address the issues of the higher crimes that are going on, that is spoken about by Sheriff Reese not too long ago, which I agree that it's just off the charts. We're in a situation that's in a crisis mode.
Thank you. Derrick, you can stay there. You'll answer first next. Do you get the pattern that we're going here? Okay, there you go.
I just forgot.
In my area, in my neighborhood, we actually had a town hall for everybody in the neighborhood to come up and talk about gun violence in our neighborhood. We didn't have any sheriffs or any kind of police up there. Would you be willing to come out, you yourself, or have someone come out and talk to the communities when they have a meeting like that?
Well, the answer is yes, times however many you want to do. And I think it's important for the sheriffs to be out in those meetings as much as possible. I know, you're spread thin to an extent, but if you're talking about community engagement, you just can't. It's not lip service. It takes you to be in these meetings, and where the people are at, where the people who voted you in are having expectations. You can't sit behind in your chair and just ask other people to represent to that extent. So wherever possible, I would love to be in those meetings. And it's not, again, the sheriff's has to be a person, the sheriff's office has to be proactive, not reactive to these situations, and actually going out in the community in a way that presents themselves as an entity that wants to deal with the issues, come alongside the community, and be a part of the solution. So we need to be proactive with that and reach out to the community, not just thinking that they can just come to us to that extent. And that's how I would do that. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I want to be a sheriff that is accountable to all of our communities in Multnomah County. And when communities don't feel that, one, they have a voice, or two, they understand or recognize that the strategies that we are putting in place, I think that is concerning. Because again, community safety is our top priority, and I really want to be able to engage with our communities, even when there's going to be times where it's really challenging, and that's what I want to be there for. Because if we are not hearing the concerns and the challenges, and if we're not doing the best job for our communities, we need to hear that. That's the only way that we're going to get better. I spend a lot of time at community events in and out of uniform, because there is a difference when we're engaging with community on breaking down some of those barriers and really getting people to build trust, and really getting people to feel comfortable to come talk to us about where their concerns are. We have to be present in all of our neighborhoods and be able to hear. Every neighborhood or every community has unique challenges. So those are going to look different in in Corbett versus the city of Portland versus Gresham. There's going to be unique challenges in each community, and I think it's critical that we make ourselves available and our teams to ensure that, one, they get to know who's in their jurisdiction and who's patrolling their area. So it's not the first time that you see someone in uniform is when it's the most critical time in your life and it's an emergency. So yes, I want to break down those barriers and be present where I can, and be able to engage with community all across Multnomah County, so we can put the best strategies in place, because again, it looks different across Multnomah County.
Thank you. Nicole, don't go away.
I know, I've just remembered.
I've got 3 questions right here, then I'll be over there. Okay, Warner?
Let me add my thanks for the two of you coming out and speaking with us this afternoon. So we hear everywhere, every police department that I've listened to or have had the chance to talk to and with about staffing issues and trying to deal with those, and the morale issues that are created both by the political climate to some extent, the staffing issues to some extent, and the amount of violence that's going on in our community. So how do you deal with those issues?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. That is a concern across public safety agencies and across many other areas within our community. We have to act with a sense of urgency to hire people into public safety. There have been challenges over the last 2 years with putting technology and different processes in place that meet the needs of when we were in the pandemic. I will work with a sense of urgency to hire people into our organization. That means going to colleges and universities, talking with people, so everyone across the nation knows that Multnomah County Sheriff's Office and Gresham Police Department should be where you want to work in public safety. We have to do a better job of communicating across the board, not just in our local area, but across the nation. In our local area, we have to continue building those partnerships and relationships with all communities. One of the areas that I'm working on is with Word is Bond and making sure that I'm supporting our young leaders. And you know, sometimes people don't think that public safety would be a career for them. So I really want to, again, have that conversation with youth and talk about, you know, where do you want to be and how can we help you get there? With respect to morale and retention, I am currently leading efforts with a expert in the field of peer support and employee assistance, and we are rebuilding and reinvesting in our peer support programs, so all of our members in our agency have direct access to any type of support or services, because this is tough work, and we want to make sure that we are keeping helping people stay healthy through a long career with the Sheriff's Office, because we also want them to stay. But if we do not invest and empower and encourage our members to have that availability and that access to those services, and also empower them to help us do this work differently and better, we have to be investing in our members across the board in our workforce. And I'm leading initiatives to do that today, and I know there's much more work to do, but we're taking the pieces, I'm taking pieces that I know are critical in this specific time to support our members.
Derrick?
Yeah, so I'm really concerned about our staff. It's probably the lowest morale that I've seen in my 35-year career, and that's just unacceptable. They don't feel valued. I really want to make sure that I'm stabilizing the workforce the minute I get in to office, and that means investing in them. I want to see their mental health and their physical health come up to a standard that's better than where it's at right now, that they feel truly valued. And I believe that I have that relationship, as I've had the support of the unions and wanting to be represented, and that would help us in a sense to be able to get new people on board before people retire too early. So I would hope that my relationship with those folks would give me at least 6 months to a year to have them stay on board, if they would be so kind to do so. I think it's extremely important that we look at other avenues. We talked about getting out to other colleges, but I think we want to look at a diverse workforce. And getting out to black colleges is extremely important, as well as our military bases. Being on a first name basis is extremely important. And I'm also looking at ways to look at some of these colleges that sports programs that really understand what recruitment is about, and re-envisioning what that looks like, and being tutored through that process of bringing in different strategies that we haven't thought about when we go out and recruit. And I think it's going to be extremely important that the sheriff has a hand in that, and whether it's flying out across the country, wherever it might be, to shake hands with a new recruit, meet their family, and invite them into a family that they can come and call home, and not just having a conversation right then and there. That's important, but not leaving them once they end up getting into the sheriff's office, and just making sure that they're solidified, they feel welcomed and supported. So that's where I would like to start my process with recruits.
Thank you, Derrick.
Hello. Thank you so much for both of you coming out today and answering our questions. I have a vested interest in community engagement, as I'm the community engagement specialist for Reynolds School District. Can you guys each tell me a specific community engagement initiative that you've been a part of or initiated that was successful, and what you think made it successful?
So organizations, like I said, the Interfaith Action, Peace Action Collaborative is one of the organizations I've been working with since inception. It's probably 7-8 years old, and some other organizations, but they've been working with Portland Police specifically about the issues around the gun violence and the homelessness, and actually interacting and cutting off situations preemptively, right? And so I've been one of probably the only representative on a consistent level being a part of these particular organizations that are dealing with community issues on a daily basis. And it's interesting to see the grassroots efforts that end up happening and being a part of that, not just representing the sheriff's office, but also just being someone from the community to be able to sit in these meetings and find relative actionable items to look at. How do we go from point A to point B? How do we interact with government? How do we interact with the police departments and move forward as one to that extent, right? So I think that's extremely important as community organizations continue to look at ways to go beyond and bring in value to their system by having more than just one aspect of an idea. It needs to be all hands on deck as far as I'm concerned, and we can't leave anyone out of the equation. And again, we need to be proactive, not just reactive.
Thank you very much for that question. So one of the areas that I worked collaboratively with our equity and inclusion manager was to organize a 12-week learning experience. And I call that community engagement because it is an opportunity for our deputies, and it was through our community partnership unit. So it was leadership at TriMet Transit Police, it was our community resource deputies, our homeless outreach and programs engagement team, and our school resource deputies that were assigned to Reynolds as we're working through that contract prior to COVID. And really what that was is to engage with community on a different level. So our deputies and command staff were able to listen, learn, and understand experiences from community, because if we're not listening to where we have not served community in the best way possible, again, we're not going to get better. So we piloted that program, and now we're moving on to the second phase of another 12 weeks. It does take time, but I feel that that is, in a smaller group, really productive, where we can really stop talking for a minute and really listening and understanding to what community expects or experiences that community has had with law enforcement, so we can be better informed when we show up at a call. If there's something that jogs our memory on, maybe someone's acting this way because of an experience that they had. And I have heard stories directly from a council member in one of our contract cities. He explained a situation that he was in, and he feared for his safety when police were there. So I appreciated that angle. We have not used that before, but I think it was probably the most productive, and we all gained a great deal. But what we did learn is that we really have to sometimes go back to the basics and really prepare our members to engage in those conversations, so they're prepared to be productive and be able to take in the information and then participate in a debrief session. So again, that's the way we're going to get better as a community as a whole. So I'm really proud of that work, and I really want to see that work continue. We do community events in all of our contract cities, in uniform, out of uniform, really just to engage on a different level in more of a fun event. And that's really important to the sheriff's office, is being front-facing in our communities. And sometimes it's just about having an ice cream with the youth in your community and connecting with the adults and letting the kiddos see what a police car is. So there's opportunities to do the real work of diversity and equity, and then also having a little fun with it too, and just engaging on a more personal level with our communities and our kids.
Thank you. Leslie? I'm not sure who's supposed to leave or not leave. Thank you so much.
We don't either, apparently.
For your participation.
Yes.
You know, so many questions are going through my mind right now, but one I thought I would be great to have you guys address is mental health. So much mental health, and I call it brain health, because I really don't think it's because our brain is not working well, and your officers are so much on the front line of that. So as you look at your tenure, how do you see your officers and your leadership working with not only yourselves and what you can do within your organization, but how are you partnering? Because again, I think it's brain health, which means that we have to engage the health industry as well. So how are you going to use these tools, and what collaborations are you going to use to support these people who are in such dire situations.
And you're talking internal with staff or community or both?
So I'm looking at your staff who are
Okay.
in connection, or who are connecting with these people who are in crisis with their mental health. We had a situation recently here in Gresham where somebody was in, had some serious issues and created a crisis. So it's really important to know
community.
how. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I appreciate that question. That is at the top of everyone's mind. Oregon is second in need for mental health and addiction services and treatment, and we are nearly last in being able to access those. So what I am doing currently is I talked a little bit about the grant with our homeless outreach and programs engagement team to have a clinician on the ground, boots on the ground with our HOPE team. We hope to use that as a pilot to be able to transition that into our services patrol or any other area, but I also really want to look at supplementing our services in our corrections facilities, because we have corrections health providers and a mental health team in our corrections facilities, but I know that we can do more partnering them with our deputies that are doing the line level work each and every day. The other piece of that is with our Transit Police Division. We're partnering directly with public health to develop a crisis response model, and we're looking across organizations to see what model would best fit our needs, because one model somewhere else may not necessarily fit the needs of Multnomah County Sheriff's Office and Transit Police. So I am directly working with public health on some of those initiatives, but I also don't want to forget about our corrections facilities, and we need those resources desperately in our corrections facilities. One, to partner with our deputies. That helps de-escalate situations. It helps with a more trauma-informed response, even though we provide our deputies with a plethora of training on how to recognize signs and symptoms of mental health and addiction, as well as de-escalation, trauma-informed responses. We also need that expert approach to pair with our deputies. And we have not necessarily been able to have that experience yet as other agencies around us had. So that is one of my goals, is to continue that work and really see it forth and put it in place and move it forward and expand it where we see the gaps.
Yeah, so quite a while ago when I was the commander over at the detention center, actually was spearheading mental health in a higher way, especially our most acute mentally ill folks that were in our system. And really, we have a 10-bed facility there at the Justice Center for our most acute, and I broke that particular housing down to a point where we even put paint on the walls where you can actually, it's like chalk for a chalkboard, so that they can express themselves in different ways. Working with the mental health providers there, bringing up a team, and I think we can enhance this to that extent, is our team of experts, whether it's corrections officers and sergeants together with our mental health and our nurses, coming up with other avenues and ways to deal with people within the jail system. And then the approach going outside of that is making sure that where is the money going to some of these organizations that aren't doing the work? And can we reallocate those funds to the organizations that are, and bringing in a holistic approach to this issue of the mental health things that are going on in our community. And actually, I'm hoping that, like our HOPE team, our homeless team that goes out, that we can find more funding, because the people that are doing that particular work are getting burned out, because there's only 2 or 3 or 4 of them on a 24/7 kind of basis to that extent, or even if it's just 5 days. But we need to be able to be more robust in that and put more resources in that into those particular programs to make sure that our folks are healthy when they are dealing with people that are unhealthy, those kind of things. I think it's extremely important for us to be able to do that.
Okay, this is the last question, and then each one of you will get to do a 1-minute wrap to tell all of the wonderful things about you that haven't been said yet. So, last question.
Hey, good afternoon. So obviously the sheriff's offices throughout the state are charged with certain things under statute, certain duties that only the sheriff's office can discharge. So I guess my question is, as candidates for sheriff, how do you prioritize the things that you are authorized to do by statute and the only agency that can perform those duties versus other things such as patrol services and things like that?
how do you prioritize all the statutory requirements of sheriff's offices as far as those programs go?
Well, that's a loaded question that I don't think I really have a huge answer for, unfortunately. But prioritization is key to running any organization, and that's bringing your key people into a situation, whether it's your command group, to be able to figure out what's priority, and then go down the line to make sure that you're implementing the things that you should be doing, and putting the other things on the back burner to that extent. So I would rely heavily on bringing those folks together, as well as involvement with community leaders. I think that's a component that needs to be part of that decision-making process. And as we go forward, I think it's important that once those details are feathered out or brought to fruition, that we act quickly on those particular issues. So that's how I would attack that particular problem.
Thank you. As many have talked about, not everyone knows what the Sheriff's Office does. So looking at the mandates of civil process and ensuring that we are serving restraining orders to protect domestic violence victims and survivors, looking at making sure that we are staffed where we can protect our community. River patrol services, how we prioritize that is in the summer, we ensure that we are fully staffed up to budget, and we do allow additional overtime when there's special events or concerns that we see on the waterway, or focused areas that we need to ensure that our waterway community feels safe. In the wintertime, that may look a little bit different. They may assist in our civil process. Running and operating our 2 jail facilities, again, we need to be really urgent about hiring and retaining our staff. So there's many areas that we're looking at. Patrol operations. We have been very flexible within the Sheriff's Office up to, we're getting to the point where we're not as flexible. And that's, again, why we're doing so much more work on collaboration. But if we have an area that isn't mandated, we may pull those resources back into patrol if we're seeing staffing issues on patrol. Some of those are community resource deputies that they still stay in their community, but they're taking the calls as well. So we're looking across the board at mandated services that we have to provide, ensuring that we are doing that, but we also know that we can remain a little bit flexible within our budget. And if we're seeing a critical need, we don't necessarily have to go ask to move our personnel. If we see a critical need in our community and we need to address it immediately, we assign the resources there to do that. So this looks different than it did probably 5 years ago. So we're always consistently looking at our budget, looking at our personnel, where they are assigned. I have specific numbers that I really look at when we're looking at patrol operations and ensuring that we're still taking care of our staff, but we're getting the job done as well. And there's a fine line in some of these areas when you're facing critical staffing shortages. But I do that work every day, especially in the law enforcement division, and we are making those decisions sometimes within weeks or months of each other to ensure that we're protecting our community, focusing on community safety, and putting the resources where we need them.
Thank you. At the beginning of the program, we started with Nicole, and Derrick was second. So we're going to end the program reverse. So Derrick, if you'd like to go first, you have a minute to wow us with the wonderful things, and then Nicole will go after.
Wow. Okay. Now, as you know, we're in a crisis, right? There's a broken system, and I've been talking about that throughout my campaign. Criminal justice system that needs to be repaired, and I am looking forward to being a part of dealing with that particular situation, working with our community partners, working with our law enforcement partners and criminal justice partners to really do a better job at serving our community. So I hear the community, and I hear what they're saying. They want to be listened to. And it needs to be a proactive approach. We need to be listening to what their concerns are. And I'm committed as not only sheriff, but with the folks that I will be leading to make sure that we are outward facing and focused in our communities and make sure that we are listening and then implementing the things that they're asking for. And I think that's extremely important. I have had a chance to ask the mayor, along with some of my black leaders about a month ago, to declare a state of emergency on gun violence. And so I'm very serious about what's happening in our community, as I've seen people like me disproportionately being killed in our streets, but everyone is being affected by this, and it has to stop. And so I look forward to being a part of the solution as we go forward. And I just hope that I have hope for us. Let's just hope that we can be better than we were before. I don't want to go back. I want to go forward. And I want to be the sheriff, the leader that brings us to a place that's better than we have been before. Thank you.
So I've been working toward leading this organization over the last 25 years of my career, but it's also on a very deeply personal level that I understand some of the challenges and some of the tragedies that are happening in our community. When I was about 3 or 4 years old, my father was running a business off Highway 30 in a small community, and a 15-year-old boy came in and shot him in the chest. He lived, but that I saw, we didn't talk about it for 40 years, I'll say that. Just recently, I found articles about it. I was young and didn't really know why I was getting shuffled from place to place. But having your sense of safety and security ripped away from you in seconds, I will never forget that part of when my mom came and whisked us away. So on a deeply personal level, I want to heal our community. I want to put every strategy possible with working all of our public safety partners, with our community leaders and members, with our community-based partners to end gun violence in our communities. It is hurting everyone. It is not just those that are directly involved. That is why we bring Office of Violence Prevention and Healing Hurt People to assist us when we're working through investigating so we can hold someone accountable for harming our community and harming that family. So I have already talked about many of the initiatives that I am leading. I lead with action. I have the experience, the training, and even the oversight of the organization as a whole to recognize where our gaps are, where we need to do better. And I do want to continue to listen to our community across Multnomah County, because again, everyone has unique needs in our community, and they expect different things from public safety. I want to be your next sheriff that hears all of our community members and start making a positive difference. I have everything to start leading on day one, and I want to make a positive difference in our community on day one when I become your next sheriff.
Thank you. Let's give them both a huge round of applause for the time that they spent. That was wonderful. This is the longest time I've been with a police officer and didn't get a ticket. I'm so glad, so glad. I want to thank our sponsors. Please just stay up here for a second. I want to thank our sponsors again, Persimmon Country Club. What a great meal. It smells wonderful still. Columbia Bank, Portland General Electric, the Boeing Company, their presenting sponsors. I want to thank Gresham Barlow School District and MetroEast Community Media. Don't forget the replay schedule on your way out. Be sure and grab one. And a special thank you to West Columbia Gorge. Thank you, Cindy, for co-hosting the event today and helping the forum be even bigger and better than it would have been without you. So between now and the next time we meet, your ballots are going to arrive in the mail. You now have started a relationship with Multnomah County candidates. I'm in Clackamas County, and if I could vote in Multnomah County, maybe I could. No, I'm just teasing. So be sure and take full advantage of your right and privilege to vote for candidates. And if you have additional questions, I'm sure that these candidates, as well as any candidate that's on the ballot, would be more than happy to answer them. So go to the website and look them up and do that. Again, let's have a round of applause for them. So have a great rest of the week. Go forth and make a profit. Thank you.